Calvert's Eaten to the Oldies tape. Well, I'm assuming that we have many more people to bore this audience than I do. Okay, fine. Thank you very much. And Bob, look at this. What other radio guy could ever get this kind of crowd together? Really? This is astonishing.
We're going to swing back to WFOG and meet a man whose name was often on Bob Calvert's lips.
1, 2, 3. Okay. Left channel there for a while. What's that? Did I call Gabe? Not me. My God, it's 9:23 in the evening. Are you kidding?
Gabe Gabriel, the chief engineer at WFOG. Gabe, where are you? Here's another definition for you. Music rotation. A method whereby a radio station plays the song you hate most every time you get in your car, and your favorite song as you get out, with nothing but commercials in between. Well, ain't that the truth? Gabe?
Thank you, Joe. I worked with Bob for 17 years at WFOG. And in that 17 years, I learned one thing that always stuck with me. Can you hear me now? Okay. This technical stuff I'm not good at. I learned one thing, which is a given. Bob Calvert is never wrong. Ever. Okay? Let me give you, for instance. A few years back, when we were on a taped, syndicated format, we needed a switcher for the control room, which didn't exist. So management came to me and told me what they wanted, and they said, well, you know, either build one or buy one, do whatever you have to do. So I said, okay, no problem. So I looked around, couldn't buy one, so I figured, well, I'll fabricate something. Went back in my little office, built this little box with a bunch of relays and wires and things hanging off of it, bring it into the control room, and Bob Calvert happened to be on the air that day. So I laid the thing out on the floor, and Bob's looking at me, and he, what's that thing? I says, well, this is a new switcher, Bob. Oh, okay. What's it going to do? And so I went through the details of what the thing was supposed to do for us. He says, it looks like it's homemade. And I says, well, yeah. I says, I put it together back in the engineering room. He says, that thing going to work? And I said, I hope so. He says, well, every time? And I says, well, I hope it works every time. That's the whole idea. So anyway, I put the box in, all right? The box ran for 5 years. This box was used 8 times an hour, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, 5 years. I figure that thing ran 350,000 some odd times and never failed. And one day I'm in my car between Suffolk and nowhere, okay? The pager goes off. The Gabe, you better call the studio, it's messed up, it is messed up, we got a big problem. I thought, oh, Lord. So now I'm looking for a phone booth in the middle of nowhere, okay? So I get to the phone booth. I said, Bob, what's going on? He said, well, the switcher you said would never fail, failed. And I said, oh, my goodness, because everything was routed through this thing. It was a critical piece of equipment, you know, and I'm about to panic. And I says, well, what are we doing? We got emergency tapes or something? No, I got it working. And I said, well, what did you do? So I pushed the button again. I said, wait a minute. You mean you pushed the button once and it didn't work, and then the second time you pushed it, it worked? That's right. I said, is it working now? Well, yes, it's working now. We're on the air. So I said, okay. I said, well, why did you page me? You said it would never fail. I said, Bob, you know, cut me some slack. I mean, we're talking an error rate here of 0.0000001% here. That thing's pretty reliable. Yes, I know. I said, Bob, come on now. Truthfully now, haven't you ever been wrong about anything? Well, yeah, once. Remember it well. July 2nd, 1952. It's 10:35 in the morning. That was the day I thought I was wrong about something. Turned out I was right, so therefore I was wrong. That's Bob. Bob, speaking of paging me in the middle of nowhere, okay? Bob turned the seemingly simple little task of paging someone into a fine art. Let me give you, for instance. This is back in the days when hardly anybody had any pagers, and we had these voice pagers instead of the digital ones like you have now, where they gives you a little phone number, a little message or whatever. And I'm standing in a 7-Eleven store in Suffolk, okay? It's the wintertime. I've got a coat on. You cannot see the pager. Now, I'm paying for this Slurpee or whatever at this checkout counter, and this little gal standing behind there. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, comes this trumpet fanfare, okay? And this voice of God, you know, Gabe, this is your Uncle Bob, you better call. Puts a little trumpet thing at the end of it, and then silence. Perfect 15 seconds. You had it timed perfectly. He would do things like that to me. He would try to make me crazy. I remember when I first got to WFOG, I don't know if Bob realized this or not, I think he was one of the people responsible for me getting hired there. They had 4 engineers on staff when I was hired, and I couldn't figure out why they needed me. Well, they told me my duty was to take care of the Portsmouth transmitter site, which was cool, and then I was also supposed to take care of the production room that Bob Calvert had over at the Hague Towers in Norfolk. I figured, well, what are these other 3 guys doing? So I said, okay, no problem. Periodically, I get phone calls from them. You know, everything okay? Yeah, everything's fine. No problems? No, just, you know, a little problem with the Ampex. No, I mean really problems. No, no problems. Come to find out, I was the mouse who was supposed to hang the bell around the cat's neck. For some reason, Bob was eating up engineers and spitting them out, and I was sort of the last sacrifice for him. I knew I had arrived with him, though, when one day I got a call from the general manager, and it was a strange call. And I figured somebody put somebody up to this, but I wasn't quite sure who. I get this phone call, and the manager's livid at the other end. Your engineering types will probably appreciate this, and those of you who aren't engineering types might want to get with one to find out exactly what I'm saying here. I'll try to make it as plain as I can. I get this call, and the manager at the other end is saying, I understand that you haven't been emptying the drip pan underneath the grid leak in the transmitter. And there's electrons all over the floor in the transmitter room. I want that cleaned up right now. And I'm there, okay, no problem, it'll be clean when you get up here, you know. About an hour later, the phone rings again, okay? Calvert on the other end. Now, if you ever got a phone call from Calvert, he never says, hello, this is Bob Calvert. He just starts right into the conversation, okay? No introductions, no nothing. I get this phone call. Calvert's on the other end. Well, did you get the mess cleaned up? Ha, 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 ha. And he hangs up, okay? From that point on, I knew we were friends, all right? At one point at WFOG, many years ago, we were going through quite a few employees. And I ended up being the chief engineer for both the AM and the FM, which we had WLPM, which was the AM at the time. I ended up being the operations manager for both stations, the program director for both stations, and also the notary who would sign the bills at the end of the month because we kept on firing bookkeepers. So somehow all of that put me in charge of Bob Calvert. I'm not quite sure how, if anybody could ever possibly be in charge of Bob Calvert. But anyway, I get this phone call from the manager, and Bob supposedly had done something. So I went down and I sat down and I talked to the manager, and I got his side of the story, and he was a bit upset. So I went back to Calvert, and I said, Bob, I says, you know, this supposedly is what's happened here, or let's hear your side of it. So he told me, and Bob wasn't at fault. He really wasn't at fault. So I went back, sat back down in the manager's office, and I said, well, look, here's the story. Here's what happened. It wasn't Calvert's fault. And the manager is glaring at me over the desk thinking, if I can find 5 people by noon, I'm going to replace this guy. So he says, Calvert's your friend, isn't he? And I said, well, yeah. I says, but that's beside the point. I mean, the guy's in the right. He's in the right. I mean, there's no denying it. From that point on, every time Bob would do something, or he was ever referred to in a conversation, it was always, your friend Calvert did this, or your friend Calvert did that. And, you know, he was absolutely right. He was my friend, he is my friend, and I hope he stays my friend for a long time. God bless you, Bob.
Our next speaker was a former manager of WNOR. He now has his own consulting firm. He is also the executive director of the Hampton Roads Association of Radio Broadcasters. So with all those hats, he is the only guy in the room that's been associated with more radio stations in Hampton Roads than Bob Calvert. Jack Radigan. Jack, where are you? Here's the definition of a consultant, Jack. Someone who gets paid to tell you what you're doing right when you're number 1 and to tell you it's your fault when you're number 20.
Trouble is they don't pay you enough. I'm a little different. Bob Calvert never called me the kid. I don't know why. I worked with Bob at WFOG under the guidance of our beloved Bob LaFerme. In those days, WFOG just played tape after tape after tape. Every 15 minutes, we did 2 commercials, then it went back to the next tape, except for 1 hour each morning, mid-morning, when Calvert did the Smith and Welton hour. And that went on for a long time, and finally the show was canceled or changed or whatever, and I saw Calvert and he said, "They won't be in business long," and he was right. Calvert was always very kind to me, but not to other people that we worked with. Marv Henry was there, and Quinn Mayano. I don't know what, I guess he went back to Yellow Pages. But anyway, we all had titles, and we did a lot of production, and Bob was in charge of almost everything, and Marv Henry, of course, in sales, but did a lot of spots. And typically of Bob Calvert, Marv did a commercial, I don't remember for who, but some local client, and copies were dubbed and sent to literally every station in town. And before Calvert sent the tape out, at the beginning of the tape he said, "Take 34." So that everybody in Hampton Roads, every radio station, assumed that Marv couldn't do anything unless he did it 34 times. However, I also know of times when Calvert would take an hour to do a tape, and if he left anything on, it would be, "Take 1." I think the funniest sight when I worked with Bob was to see him, I was going to say, get into his Honda Civic, because this was the first Honda Civic when they were no bigger than a go-kart. And he would get in and get out of that thing, and we could never figure out how, but he did it. But the greatest thrill came to me from Bob Calvert when I announced I was leaving WFOG to go to Charleston, West Virginia to manage WCHS there. And it's the only time I've ever seen Bob be impressed by anyone, because he was from West Virginia and he thought that anyone going to West Virginia had to be something special. And Bob, I'm going back next weekend, but only for 3 days, not for the 2.5 years. As I say, I'm a little different, my relationship with Bob. When I came back to the area about 15 years ago, I went into WFOG and I saw Bob, and of course he said, "I knew you'd be back." I'm glad that Bob's back and that we're with him, and like many people have said here tonight, he's a very special person. I feel very special not only knowing him, but having worked with him, and till my dying day will consider him a very dear friend. Good luck, Bob.
Thank you, Jack. While we're on the subject of the Hampton Roads Radio Association of Broadcasters, Pam Hughes is with us tonight. Pam is the president now of the Hampton Roads Association of Radio Broadcasters, in addition to being general manager at WFOG, and that name keeps cropping up tonight too. And Pam, you have a presentation to make to Bob. Let's do it right here, would you? Yeah, why don't you do it up here, and then we'll go down and give it to him. You come up here and read it and do your presentation.
Hi, Bob. I know you can see me because you've got eyes in the back of your head. You used to give me a hard time all the time at Fog. Okay. Bob, what we have tonight is this beautiful plaque for you that says, can you hear me? Real close. Can you hear me? Okay. We have a beautiful plaque tonight for Bob. It says, "Presented with love, A Tribute to Bob Calvert, a Hampton Roads radio legend, August 15th, 1991. And it's from the Hampton Roads Association of Radio Broadcasters. Also, through the generous gifts of love from the people that are here tonight, we have over $4,500 to present to Bob. And the evening isn't over yet, so please feel free to keep giving. Thank you all.
Thank you, Pam. And once again, well, I'll tell you about the drawing we're going to have here very shortly also. And if you'd like a copy of the videotape of tonight's program, we have a sign-up sheet over here. They're $15. It's VHS tape. And give us your $15, your name and address, and your phone number, and we'll run off a copy of the tape for you. We have one more speaker tonight before we get down to our grand guest here tonight. This is the anchor on Channel 13, who is known for his news and notes here. Please make welcome Jim Kincaid. Jim?
I didn't actually come prepared to make a speech tonight. I came prepared to drink. I figured there might be a freebie in it for me, and Studio Center was kind enough to see to it that I got the invitation, and my wife told me that I had to behave. And so I will behave until I finish what I have to say here, and then all bets are off. I first met Bob when I became associated with Studio Center, and it's one of the most fortunate parts of my life. I came in and he took one look at me and he says, "You're that new kid on Channel 13, aren't you?" And I allowed as how I was, and he says, "Well," he said, "I've heard a lot of good things about you, but I don't think you're going to last." Bob didn't know, but at one time I lived in the Hague Tower, where he had an office, and he came and went quite often. And we used to make bets from the balcony of our apartment over whether his car would get all the way out of the parking lot or not, leaning like that. But it almost always did, and I can tell you that over the past 10 years, I've come to know the man well, and I've heard his stories, and I even believed a few of them. And it's been a real privilege to know Bob Calvert. And Bob, congratulations, you got a lot of friends.
I have a theme song here somewhere. I had a theme song here. Well, where did it all go here? Oh, here we go. Those of you who are longtime listeners to WGH may remember...
Make sure I got it right.
Yes, may remember this particular theme song. That was Bear and Bebop's theme, right, Bob? And here's a guy who drew a lot of inspiration from Bear and Bebop, our own Bob Calvert. Please make welcome, ladies and gentlemen, Wolfman Jack. Wolfman. Use this one up here, Wolfman. We haven't turned those on yet, because if we get Calvert talking, you're going to have a chance here, Bob, to say a couple of things. But we decided right off we were going to put dead mics down there. We wouldn't get anything done here tonight.
Thank you, Joe. You know, me and Calvert go back a ways. When I was a little kid, not a little kid, I was about 25 years old. I first started on the radio here in Newport News, Virginia, on a station called WYOU. and then it became WTID. So I was two different kind of people. I first started out as a disc jockey on a black station called Daddy Jules, and I used to play rhythm and blues on this black radio station. Then the station was sold, and they started to play contemporary jazz and good music, so I became Roger Gordon, and I had jazz on a Sunday afternoon, you know. So this goes back, this is way back in the 60s, I think, the early 60s. And at that time, he was Baron Bebop, you see. And I remember seeing him one time. He came up in a big Cadillac one time to do something at a mall. And he got out with his clothes on, all his, you know, he had this big outfit on. And as Baron Bebop had this little hat on. And I said, yeah, that's it. That's the character right there. So actually, the Wolfman Jack character, as I play it today, you know, is a lot styled from this legendary gentleman that's sitting right here in front of us. So actually, I owe him a lot. And it's a pleasure to be here with you all, and I appreciate you inviting me down. I wouldn't have missed this for anything in the world. I mean, he's one of the best in the business. It don't get no better than Bob Calvert, you know what I mean?
Thank you, Wolfman, and we appreciate your coming tonight. Right now, we are going to, first of all, do an auction here. We have from U.S. Airlines, an upgrade ticket for two. Now, the way this works, if you're flying anywhere on U.S. Airlines, you buy the lowest price ticket you can get, all right? And with these passes, you will get upgraded to first class. So it's a pretty good deal, anybody planning to take a trip. And these have been donated by 2WD, and that's what it is. So it's an upgrade to first class from any ticket that you have with U.S. Airlines. So if anybody's planning a trip anywhere, it's be a pretty good deal for you. And we're going to auction them off right now. And of course, all the money will go to the Calvert Fund. Who'll open the bidding? Say with $50. We have a $50 bid here. Could be worth $1,000 or more. I can't see in the back there with these lights on, so somebody holler. We have someone bidding $50 on it. We have a bidder in the back. Thank you very much. Who'll make it 70? We have 50. Who'll say 70? Alan Presley's a great auctioneer. Alan, where are you? Come up here and auction this off. Is Alan still here? He better be. We have $50. Who'll make it 70? 50. Who'll say 70? Now, that's okay, Alan. Sit down. We'll do this quick here. We're anxious to get on with this tonight here. But we have $50. Who'll say 70? And holler in the back, because I can't see behind the lights there. $50. $50 once. Oh, we have $70 bid. Thank you. What? Pretend it's an HRO auction. Yes. Call early, call often, and bid high. All right, and it's for Bob Calvert. Yes, we have a $70 bid. Who'll make it 80? $70. Who'll say 80? This could be worth over $1,000 depending on where you're flying. We have $70. We won't go along with this. Once. Oh, thank you. Very good. Holler out, because I can't see with the lights. We have an $80 bid over there. Who'll make it 90? $80. Who'll say 90? $80. Do we hear 90? We have $90. Thank you. That's better. Holler it out. Good. We have $100. Thank you very much. Who'll say 120? We have 100. Who'll make it 120? First class on what? Don't be cheap. Oh, don't be cheap. Okay. We have and now I forgot where we are. We have 100. 100. And we have a $100 bid over here. Who'll say 120? 100 once, 100 twice. Okay, $100. You got it. That's a good deal for you. Don't forget, too, that if you'd like a copy of the videotape of tonight's goings-on, they're $15. $13 of that will go to the Bob Calvert Fund. And there's a table right over here. It's a corner. Just sign up on there with your name and address and your phone number. Give them the $15, too. And we'll get in contact with you once the tapes have been dubbed. We have audio tapes of some drops that Bob has done through the years, some of them on the tape that we're using here tonight. And if you'd like to have that, it's $5, and that'll go to the Bob Calvert Fund also. Let me see here. Oh, yes, we're going to do the drawing. And if you haven't gotten your ticket on it, I'll give you about 2 minutes to get them here. We have tickets over here at this table also. They're $5 a piece or 3 for $10. These are the prizes we're going to, well, we have a whole bunch of prizes. And I don't have the whole list right here. These are some of them, though. The big prize, you get an Atlantic City day trip for 2 to Atlantic City. 2 cruises on the Spirit of Norfolk, 2 Wild Water Rapids passes, CD party collection. Those are from WLTY and WTAR. The Atlantic City day trip is from WFOG. Wowie has donated a treadmill valued at $400. From WCMS, a $200 gift certificate from Chips Chandler's at Sandbridge and dinner for 4 at Headlights. From 2WD, we also have some more tickets on US Air that I don't quite understand. You buy the lowest price ticket, guarantees you the lowest ride on US Air anyway. And some other things too. And we're going to have the drawing here in just about 5 minutes. So if you'd like to get your ticket, get it right over here. They're $5 a piece or 3 for $10. Oh yes, we have some other prizes too that came in tonight. Golf for 2. And I don't remember where. But anyway, we'll have the drawing, and if we draw your name, you get your pick of the prizes. Next name we get gets a pick of the other prizes. So socialize a little bit, get to see folks. I've seen folks here tonight I haven't seen in 20 years. But do your socializing, come up, say hello. Bob, if you'll just turn your mic is off there, but it's turned on. If you want to flip the switch on the mic there. Dave Dessler's coming up to help you out there. If there's something you'd like to say while the folks are getting these tickets over here.
Should be on.
It should be on.
Trying to see. Yeah, well, I was listening to Jim, and I don't think I put you down, because you've always been. We're privileged to know you, and privileged to have you in our midst as a news person. And of course, we're all familiar with your great efforts before when you joined ABC. And of course, I know you were struck by the death of your cohort a few weeks back. I think we pretty much knew that he was going to die. Harry, I can't remember his last name now. Griesner, okay. He was always one of my favorite newsmen. I want to thank Tom. Tom Amison is your host here tonight. He's tell you a little bit about Tom, if I can. He's a retired Navy man. He owned a truck stop, and the truck stop just didn't seem